Summertime in the cul-de-sac was the time of year we all looked forward to. 3 months of no school, days spent running the sidewalks and riding bikes, and the familiar sound of the ice cream truck a couple of times a week. We were all just middle-class kids, and those without older siblings were under orders to stay with a group if they went out. We lived in those halcyon days when you didn't come in until the streetlights came on, and Mom was only worried when something came out in the paper about stranger danger or an abduction. The street I lived on had about 12 families, and all of them had kids. Me and Mikey Castro were best buds, and had been since first grade. There were usually enough kids on the road, riding bikes or shooting hoops, to get a game of stickball or soccer going if you wanted. Sometimes, if their parents were cool with it, we'd play touch football in someone's yard, or I'd drag my radio flyer wagon out of the garage and we'd load it with plastic guns and play war. Most of the kids came in pairs to play the game of the day, pairs or triples or even quads, but everyone on the block had someone or several someones. Solo kids stood out like a sore thumb, and we all usually chummed together. I tell you all this so I can tell you that Robbie was odd by the standards of the neighborhood. Robbie didn't have a best friend, and I'm not entirely sure that he had friends of any sort at all. He was a skinny kid, rail thin, my mom would have said, with big, thick glasses and a mouth made for frowning. He never joined in on our games, and we never really offered. We weren't unfriendly kids, far from it, but Robbie didn't feel right. I know how that sounds, but a weird kind of haze seemed to hang over Robbie. It always reminded me of the stink lines around Pigpen in the Peanuts cartoons, but this one felt more like TV static. It was like a low background sound that hung around him, and if I spent too much time around him, I always felt like I had a headache coming on. He used to draw on the sidewalk with colored chalk, and we all joked that his dad must bring back the defective sticks from the chalk factory where he worked. No matter the temperature, no matter what the season, Robbie was out there drawing on the sidewalk. It was the summer of '92, and Mickey had a new super soaker. He wanted to do a water war, so all of us with guns showed up to play. I had a couple of water pistols from Easter, and Stevie Westers had 3 of those big super soakers that were popular the year before. He and his 2 brothers took them, and some of the other kids had ragged collections of water pistols and water balloons. There were about 11 of us in all, and we divided into teams as fairly as we could. The opposing side had more guys, but one of them was Davy Michaels, and his club foot kind of held him back from running. We were soaking each other in lukewarm water when I heard someone yell in frustration. I looked up to see Robbie shaking his wet arm, scowling at 2 of the Westers brothers who had soaked him with their guns. "What are you doing? You'll erase him! Get away from here! This is my sidewalk! Mom said so!" Some of us stopped squirting each other, moving closer as he brandished his piece of chalk like a dagger at the Westers brothers. They were backing away too, like whatever he had might be catching, and he went back down to fix the chalk drawing that they had ruined with their water guns. I approached Robbie, meaning to apologize, but he stood up and brandished his chalk at me again. "Go away! This is my sidewalk! Go play on your sidewalk!" I laughed. "Robbie, the sidewalks are for everyone. You can't own a sidewalk." "Can too," he belted. "Can too. My mom says so. This sidewalk's in front of our house, and it's mine." I took a step forward, trying to calm him down, but then I saw what he'd been drawing and recoiled a little. For a chalk drawing, it was very expressive. I would later think of cave paintings or early primitive drawings, but this was far more savage. It was a tall man with long frilled arms and long spindly legs. His chest was equally long, stretching in many colors as it tapered up to a rounded head with a pair of stubby horns on it. The eyes were spirals, the swirls changing colors as well as they swirled into the irises. Even wet, it looked very formidable. "What is that?" I asked Robbie, and he must have heard something in my voice. He grinned. "That's the Chalk Man. I draw him all the time. He comes to me at night and tells me that if I don't, he'll get me. So I draw him everywhere, on the sidewalk, on the carport, even on the back patio." I shook my head, turning to go, but I heard him say something else, and it made my blood run cold. "I put him out here because he likes to watch you guys." "What?" I half whispered as I turned around. "What did you say?" "I said he likes to watch you kids while you play. Someday, when none of you are paying attention, he'll grab one of you and drag you into his little world and gobble you up. That's what he says, anyway." He shrieked again when I started spraying the chalk drawing. I couldn't have told you why I did it, but I felt certain that it needed to be done. This thing needed to be gone forever. And as it started to fade, I heard my squirt gun hiss as it went empty. I moved away slowly, Robbie still crying as he yelled at me for ruining it. And when Mikey came over to see what was going on, I found I couldn't look away from the spot where Robbie was fixing that horrid creature. "What was that about?" Mikey asked, Robbie still shooting me murderous looks. I tried to find the words for it, but I was unable. "I don't know. He said something I didn't like. It made me feel..." I chewed my lip, trying to find something to describe it, and coming up short again. "Bad. Really bad." The water war was starting to wind down now, most of us on our third or fourth tank, and we were all soaked and shivering. "Come on," Mikey said. "I just got a new Super Nintendo game. We can dry off, and you can borrow some of my clothes." I nodded and allowed myself to be pulled away, but it was hard to look away from that hunched figure as he worked over the chalk drawing of his monster. We spent the afternoon playing a new spaceship game that he had gotten. I can't remember the name, but it was fun, and I was shocked when I looked out and saw that it was getting dark. The streetlights would be coming on now, and my mom would be angry if it got dark and I wasn't home. Mickey asked if I wanted to ask his mom to drive me, but his house was only a block down from mine. "If I run, I can make it," I told him, and headed off towards home. The afternoon had gotten away from me, the sun riding low, and the night was fast approaching. I'd have to run if I intended to make it in time, but as I ran down the path towards the sidewalk, I stopped as I saw something that I had hoped to avoid. Stretched across the sidewalk, the multicolored chalk very bright, was the Chalk Man. He was even bigger than he'd been earlier, his arms seeming to twine around the fence posts, and I hopscotched over and around him as I took off for home. I was going to be late if I didn't all but fly down the pavement. I hadn't gone very far, though, when I saw another Chalk Man, just as large as the last. His mouth was open, revealing teeth as sharp as knives. A mouth that size would have no problem gobbling me up whole. I ran around this one too, but it wasn't the last. They seemed to be everywhere, and Robbie had been busy indeed. The Chalk Man was rising and writhing across the concrete. His mouth opened and closed as I ran, those gnashing teeth going up and down as my fervent strides bore me on. I was filled with the terror of bedroom closets and growls beneath beds. These chalk drawings made me feel the way that strangers sometimes did, the way I felt when I listened to a scary story, the way I felt when I was outside at night. When I tripped, my cry had nothing to do with the way the pavement ate up my hands and knees. I thought I must have caught the edge of the sidewalk in my haste, but as I looked back, I felt my neck hair stand up. A single chalk hand, the purple claw looking huge and cruel, had risen up to grab my ankle as I ran. The chalk man was even now rising from the pavement, its gnashing teeth chomping at my ankle. It nearly had me, too. I was so surprised to find a chalk arm rising from the concrete. This was no cartoon. Things like this didn't happen in the real world. It had dragged me halfway to that gaping maw before I realized I wasn't dreaming after bashing my head on the sidewalk. I pulled and pulled hard, but his hands were strong. He dragged me back, more of him rising as he yanked at me, but it seemed fate had other ideas. He had grabbed not the whole ankle, but my sock, and as his hand slipped on the fabric, I was up and moving before it could latch back around it. I was running, dodging around other chalk drawings, and when I saw my house coming into view, I breathed a little easier. That was until I saw the chalk man outside my own gate. He was already rising like a blighted weed from the pavement, and I knew I couldn't get around him. I sidestepped into the neighbor's yard, and that was when I saw it. His hose was coiled around the spigot, and I reached for the nozzle as the shadow of that thing fell over me. It was rising, huge now, coming up, and as I unwound the hose, I watched as the water hit it, the chalk man seeming as surprised as I was. I stepped back, some of its color fading, and as I pelted it with water, the chalk began to run into the gutter. He was melting like the Wicked Witch, and as he fell away to nothing, I turned off the hose and ran for home. I came in panting, and any anger my mother might have had at me being late was washed away like the chalk man. I told her that I felt like someone had been trying to snatch me, and she made the usual sounds about people being watchful. She fed me, and she told me to get ready for bed, but I knew there wouldn't be any sleep for me tonight. How could I sleep with the image of that chalk demon running through my head? For the next several nights, I had bad dreams about the chalk man. In my dreams, I didn't get away. In my dreams, the chalk man dragged me across the pavement, and the last thing I saw before I woke up was him pulling me into his mouth. After that night, I didn't see any more of the sidewalk drawings. Some people in the neighborhood had complained, and Robbie was only allowed to draw them in front of his own house. His parents got fined, I heard, and his dad grounded him from drawing for a week. I assume he still did, since the chalk man never got him, but the chalk man never darkened our sidewalks again. I can remember, on the days when I found myself close to the madly scribbling boy, that the chalk man still seemed to move, but it could have just been the heat shimmer. These are but the rememberings of a child, but they're so vivid that I often wonder how much is speculation and how much truly happened.